What if I told you that in the 1960s, Chevrolet seriously believed the future of trucking was jet engines? Not diesel. Not electric. Not hybrid. Jet power. And the result was one of the craziest trucks ever built. The Chevrolet Turbo Titan. This machine looked less like a truck and more like something designed for NASA. And honestly, for its time, it was futuristic. Back in the 1950s and 60s, America was obsessed with jet technology. Jet fighters were becoming symbols of speed and power. Engineers believed gas turbine engines would replace traditional piston engines everywhere. Cars, trains, even trucks. So Chevrolet decided to experiment with something radical. Instead of using a conventional diesel engine, they installed a gas turbine engine inspired by aircraft technology. The idea sounded genius. Compared to diesel engines, turbine engines had fewer moving parts. That meant less vibration, smoother operation, and potentially lower maintenance. The Turbo Titan was designed to be quieter and more reliable over long distances. And visually, it looked unbelievable. The truck featured a futuristic cab design, huge panoramic windows, aircraft-inspired styling, and an interior that looked decades ahead of its time. It genuinely looked like a truck from the year 2000. Except it was built in the 1960s. But the real star of the show was the engine. Instead of the deep rumble of a diesel truck, the Turbo Titan produced a high-pitched jet-like scream. People who saw it in person said it sounded more like an airplane preparing for takeoff than a highway truck. And that sound alone made it legendary. Chevrolet engineers believed turbine technology could revolutionize heavy transportation. The engine could operate on multiple fuel types, including diesel, kerosene, and jet fuel. That flexibility sounded incredibly advanced at the time. But then, reality hit. And it hit hard. The biggest problem was fuel consumption. At high speeds, the turbine engine performed reasonably well. But during slow driving, traffic, or stop-and-go conditions, fuel economy became absolutely terrible. And for commercial trucking companies, fuel efficiency is everything. The engine also produced extreme heat. That created engineering challenges involving cooling systems, safety, and durability. And while turbine engines had fewer moving parts, they were incredibly expensive to manufacture. Maintenance required specialized knowledge, and repair costs were massive compared to normal diesel trucks. Then came another problem: response time. Traditional diesel engines produced torque almost immediately. But turbine engines had throttle lag. When drivers pressed the accelerator, power delivery wasn't always instant. For a heavy truck carrying massive loads, that delay became a serious issue. So despite all the futuristic promises, the Turbo Titan never entered mass production. But even though it failed commercially, the truck became an engineering icon. Because it represented something bigger than transportation. It represented an era when engineers weren't afraid to build crazy ideas. Back then, companies experimented with nuclear-powered cars, rocket vehicles, supersonic passenger travel, and jet-powered machines. The Chevrolet Turbo Titan was part of that wild vision of the future. And honestly, that's what makes it so fascinating today. It wasn't practical. It wasn't economical. But it was bold. Imagine driving down the highway in the 1960s and suddenly hearing what sounded like a fighter jet behind you, only to realize it was a semi-truck. That's the kind of engineering insanity that people never forget. And in many ways, the Turbo Titan became a symbol of experimental American engineering at its peak. Today, modern trucks focus on fuel economy, electronics, automation, and electric power. But the Turbo Titan came from a different era. An era obsessed with speed, power, and futuristic dreams. And even though jet-powered trucks disappeared, the legend of the Turbo Titan never did. So, would you drive a jet-powered semi-truck? Subscribe for more insane engineering stories, forgotten futuristic machines, and unbelievable vehicles from history.